Hey everybody, Tim Kawakami here. 49ers Plus Minus with my co-host, the young, the able, the great Matt Barrows. Matt, how you doing this morning? We got some things going on in 49er land. No playoffs to discuss, but it's draft season already. Well, maybe not quite there, but almost there. There'll be a lot of draft talk. There will be a lot of future talk. There will be a lot of all different negotiations talk. They still have 3 games to play. They're going to Miami. I guess you're going pretty soon. They're going pretty soon. They play the Dolphins on Sunday morning, West Coast time. Then 2 more games after that. Where's your mindset? What are you thinking about, like the rest of the season or heading into beyond that? What's the number one issue on Matt Barrows' mind right now?
Well, making sure all my holiday shopping is
Well,
complete
yeah.
is
You're
the
not. It's
number
not done
one
already. It's
issue.
not done already. I finished mine
Mostly
though.
done.
I
Mostly done.
finished.
You're right. I mean, it's looking ahead to next year, and it's Brock Purdy's contract. It's can they re-sign Dre Greenlaw? Can they re-sign Talanoa Hufanga? 2 guys that came in and it was clear to everybody who's watching that, okay, this defense is better when these 2 guys are on the field. The flip side of that is it's clear to the other 31 teams too that these 2 guys are really good, and you don't really know what their market's going to be. So I think that's a great question kind of going into January. And then, the 49ers will have the opportunity to re-sign these guys, basically have a 2.5-month head start before the league year begins in mid-March. So if it's something that they really want to do, and they want to do this in concert with a Brock Purdy contract, I think we're talking about January, February for kind of getting those big ticket items taken care of. And wouldn't it be wonderful? What a great Valentine's Day gift to all of us if they have all of those things wrapped up by February 14. That's my my goal for the winter.
Dear John and Parag, here's how you can make me really happy on this. Be my
Exactly.
Valentine. Get this all done by signed Matt Barrows. We shall see if that's all happening. Just on a side note, I certainly wrote about Purdy this week. We can get into what we think the contract might end up or how it will be defined. But man, I watch Dre Greenlaw play. Obviously, just jumped off the screen in first half plus a few more plays. They just look different when I'm out there. Fred Warner looks different with Dre out there, and even when Dre went out, Fred was incredible after that. In the post game where he can barely walk, but he's up there just so happy talking to us that he's in. He would have done anything to play. Obviously juxtaposed against Devondre Campbell refusing to play, and then just in the locker room, I was there and just like, this guy is the heart of the 49ers. Like, this guy is what they want to be. When they talk about who they are, when they think about who they are, it's Dre Greenlaw. It's that spirit. It's that level of, just commitment. Obviously a great player. I think we'll see what the dollars are. Man, I'd put a priority on bringing him back. I don't know that there's a big deal out there for him. He is still coming off an Achilles. He is, not a young player anymore, a super young player anymore. I think they could bring him back. I'd put a high priority. Obviously, Purdy's number one, but God, I just think he is the quintessential 49er of this era. One of Kittle. There's many others, but Kittle, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. Man, I just don't know that these are just these important bedrock pieces of that locker room. You think I'm overdoing it, Barrows, or do you think maybe you give a little financial wiggle room just to bring back that character, that person into the locker room?
I mean, to me, it's also a question of who do you have behind him.
Yep.
I mean, the Devondre Campbell episode just underscores how difficult it was to find his replacement. And I know that they're grooming D. Winters. I don't think D. Winters has shown enough this season. I mean, he's shown flashes of being really good, but that's all it's been. There's been no consistency. Not sure the 49ers kind of trust him in that role yet. And he also keeps getting hurt. And that happened again on Thursday night. So there's that. I mean, Nick Bosa said, over the top quote from a normally very, low key personality. He said that Dre Greenlaw is my favorite teammate to ever play with. And that goes back to college too. So, your note about Fred Warner is well taken, but there are other guys that kind of feel the same way. This guy really just pumps energy into the team. Let me ask you this: last March, Aziz Al-Shaair, good friends with Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, and the same age as Dre Greenlaw, 27, got a 3-year deal for $34 million from the Texans. So 11 and change a year. Does that sound right for Dre Greenlaw? I mean,
Yeah, it's
higher
first
than
of all,
that?
yeah, the 49ers could not pay that. I don't think the 49ers could pay that. But secondly, Al-Shaair was not coming off an Achilles tear. Like it's hard to invest that kind of money, whatever the guaranteed money is, and I'm sure it was in the 20s, to someone that you're not entirely sure is going to get through the season. Like we don't know that Jay Greenlaw's getting through next season. It's probably going to have to miss some time coming off of that kind of injury. Maybe there's a team out there that would do it, but I mean, Aziz was like an ascending, right? He was an ascending player. He needs more playing time because he's playing behind Warner and Greenlaw. Dre Greenlaw is not an ascending player. He is somebody that you're not sure about where his future is. So I think you can get him cheaper. If there's a 3-year deal at $11 million a year for Dre Greenlaw out there, the 49ers cannot re-sign him. That's a number they can't do, but they can do, 2 at 9 and 9, something like that. With 15 guaranteed, something like that. Like, more moderate. I think he's clearly worth more than that if he's healthy, but you don't know. So that's what I'm thinking. I think, he loves being in that locker room. Again, he shouldn't take less than $1 they can get elsewhere. But Al-Shaair is a little tough just because, again, he was a guy that had a lot of playing time, but you could see how good he was going to be, and he wasn't hurt. He was going up. Can't really say that about Greenlaw, at least not now. So I think it's possible. Again, I'm not saying it's for sure going to happen, but I think it's possible. So I was going to say Winter's he's a poor man's Aziz. Like he's that level. Like if he's really good, he's there. He's not a Dre Greenlaw. And he's not hurt, and he's young now. In no world do I think he's going to get, he's on track to be as good as Al-Shaair. At least Al-Shaair has been recently. But like he's not a Dre Greenlaw platform player. Greenlaw is right there next to Fred Warner. That's how high he is. I think there's a needle you can thread here. I again, not knowing what the market's going to be, but Houston's already got Al-Shaair. I don't know that they, that's the one.
Well,
Oh my
yeah, I'm
God,
not
to
saying
me,
Houston.
yeah, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, what teams run that system? Where is it going to be? I think it's a tough one. We just knew that D'Amico was going to want Al-Shaair. It was the available young player. I don't know for sure who that next person's going to be, who that next team's going to be. So that's what I'm
About
talking.
what about reuniting Dre Greenlaw and Dom in Philadelphia?
Yeah, that's right.
I know that that Vic Fangio wants an upgrade at linebacker.
Linebacker, but he doesn't run that team though.
He doesn't, and that's the difference between Al-Shaair and Greenlaw. Al-Shaair plays middle linebacker and
Yep.
was a backup to Fred Warner. Here, I don't recall Greenlaw ever playing that. I mean, he's an outside linebacker. He's
just a missile. He's a missile.
He's a missile.
Yeah, just go.
Yeah.
Go
So I mean, but gee, I mean, you want him on that team. I mean, you put him in that Fangio defense. I think he could do some damage. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting case study. Linebackers don't usually get a lot of money on the market, so that the 49ers have that going for them. They have the injury going for them.
Here's the other thing I think about. We've just felt it. Wilkes did not tie the defense together because he was a secondary guy. Linebackers are the heart of this. They always have been. And we saw that when they were a little, had a deficit of talent there, it didn't really tie together this season. Devondre Campbell, we can all rip on him now because he quit on him, but he just wasn't very good. I mean, you and I were saying it like every week. We've said that they're lacking in speed there. The linebackers tie the defensive line to the secondary. They just do. The coaching does, the players do, and they need that kind of feel, that explosiveness. Now, if they can get another one, that's fine. But again, we've seen what happened when they were going through the list, and Shanahan now said they had 2 linebackers ready to go before they signed Devondre Campbell. We know Kendricks was one of them. I don't know who the other one was, but maybe he's thinking Jeff Ulbrich. Maybe he's thinking that one. Defensive coordinator / outside linebacker. But I just think linebackers are just the heart of this defense and therefore the heart of the team. And I just don't. Once you get one you love who seems to fit, I wouldn't give up on him, knowing that he's healthy or feeling that he's healthy and feeling that maybe that Achilles tear recently would scare off a $30 million contract offer from someone else. That's just me saying it. I think Hufanga's really good. Obviously, it's been a different defense with him. Even, he's had 2 games now. But safety is such a, it's not as consequential a position as linebacker, specifically for this team. It's somebody that I think they want to keep, should keep, a leader, smart guy, plays that defense so well. I'd lean Greenlaw over Hufanga, though.
Yeah, I mean, the difference there is that Hufanga just might be more affordable.
Yep.
Because the safety market, he's coming off an injury. The safety market is always just the worst market of all of those, safety and running back, and then maybe linebacker after that. But the con against re-signing Hufanga is that they've got a 22-year-old safety in Malik Mustafa, and they've got a 24-year-old safety in Jair Brown. I think that if the 49ers are looking at positions where they can save money, that's a big one. I go back and forth. I mean, if Hufanga's out there and he's just kind of lingering on the market, this has happened to the 49ers in the past. They were ready to say goodbye to Deshaun Goldson, 12 years ago or whatever it was. And he didn't find any good money out there, and he came back, and it was to the 49ers' benefit. So it happens. It happens at that position in particular. So I would not cross him off the list. Nick Bosa is interesting because he spoke on Monday, and basically he said, I want the status quo back for 2025. And that's something that you hear players say all the time. I think that my teammates, the guys in the locker room here, we're the guys to do it. But I think he gets a little bit more voice maybe than other guys. And he was making a pitch for Nick Sorensen to come back, and saying that he thinks that Nick Sorensen's done a great job, and he thinks he should be back next year. And he said he knew that wasn't going to be popular with the media, that that we were going to be rabble rousing to oust Nick Sorensen. But what do you think of that? And what do you think of his notion that, okay, these last couple of games have really shown the potential for what the 49ers defense really can be next year?
Well, he definitely did not say that last year about Steve Wilkes, so that's definitely pointed comparison. If anything, Bosa was leading the way, saying, maybe we can do something else here. Secondly, I think he's right. I do think I heard this a couple weeks ago. It's like he didn't have Bosa for those 2 games on the road that looked so terrible. He hasn't had Dre Greenlaw. He hasn't had Hufanga. We have Javon Hargrave's been out. Like, you've heard this in the building. I think Shanahan's kind of thinking that way. Does not mean Nick Sorensen is absolutely the guy they want in 2025, but I think that the feeling is, as you said, compare it to Saleh in the first few years, kind of a coordinator growing on the job with a lot of potential. One of them who has been one of them. And whoever said it, I saw somewhere, like, he compared him to DeMeco his first season. Like, DeMeco had things to learn, was growing.
Nick said that.
Yeah, you knew that there was something there, but he was growing. And when you start comparing a young coordinator to DeMeco Ryans in the 49er locker room, that's obviously significant. A man who has incredible amount of respect in there. So I think it's headed to this good feeling about Sorensen. Again, does not mean, in my opinion, that he's guaranteed to be back. We know he was not the top choice. And if Jeff Ulbrich is available, or Saleh, or whoever, they have to think about it. But I think, you kind of go into with a baseline sense going into the offseason. I think the baseline is someone will have to be proven to be better than Nick Sorensen. They're not saying we have to get off this guy. Let's see what else is out there. And that's why I absolutely don't think, and I've said this before, Clay, it will not be Brandon Staley. Like, they've made that decision. It's Nick Sorensen over Brandon Staley. I don't think Brandon Staley is even going to be on the team next season. I think this was a good 1 year, try it out and see if Nick Sorensen needs a backstop. I don't think Nick Sorensen needs a backstop. I think they've made those decisions. Again, not 100% lock for next season, but I think in their minds, it's kind of the way they want it to work out.
One of the things that Bosa brought up as reason for keeping the status quo is he noted that Leonard Floyd in recent weeks has looked way better than he did at the beginning of the season. Remember at the beginning of the season, I was wondering, okay, I think this guy's hurt
Yep.
because, he
Early
suffered.
on. Well, he did get hurt, right? He did get hurt early
Well,
on.
he did in the
Yeah.
preseason. And he and Yetur Gross-Matos got hurt on very similar, plays, knee injuries back to back. And Gross-Matos eventually needed surgery, had to go on IR. And I was wondering, okay, I wonder whether Floyd sort of had the same deal, didn't go on IR, but was really kind of struggling through something. And I went up to Floyd a couple of weeks ago and I gave him that premise, and he said, no, that's not it. It just took me a while to learn this defense. And he's a guy who was an outside linebacker for most of his career, and he's being asked to play defensive end in this scheme. And, and Bosa was asked this the other day. It's like, on the face of it, it just seems like a very simple defense. You just line up and you just fly to the ball. And Bosa said, no, that's not the case. It does take time. And his case in point was the guy he calls Flo, that's the nickname for Leonard Floyd on the team, has really played a lot better. And you see it. I mean, it's just obvious that he's more effective. He's playing the run better, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all part of this idea. Yetur Gross-Matos is back. Yetur Gross-Matos is about to set a career high in sacks. That the ideas that the 49ers had in the offseason, which were slow in coming, are kind of suddenly making sense. And that's what Bosa is seeing. And that's why he thinks that the 49ers are on the right course right now defensively.
Yeah, I think I've said it on the show. I've been kind of meaning to write a Sorensen column the last few weeks. Other things have come up, but I'll predict it here. If they look good in Miami defensively, now sometimes it's hard. If they lose and the defense looks good, it's hard to write, oh my God, the defense look good. But I do think this is headed towards Sorensen at least getting a very strong consideration to come back. I think their thumbs up on Sorensen, their thumbs up on the kind of the upward tilt of this defense when they've got Greenlaw back, when they got Hufanga back, when they got the right pieces. Now they're going to have to get another defensive lineman. I think defensive tackle, whether or not Hargrave is back, I don't think they can count on him being back. And the salary situation, I'm not 100% sure what all the adjustments for salary makes, but I think it's 50-50 at best that he's back. So you'll need a 3 technique defensive tackle. Like you need somebody who can cause some disruption inside. They don't really have that. But given all that, feels like it's settled. It's settling on the defensive side. They got to fix that head coach's side. The head coach has got to do something about his side of the ball. That's the one that's been struggling. We many reasons for, but it ain't the defense the last few weeks.
Or are you banging the table for Shanahan to get fired? Shanahan should fire himself.
Fire himself as offensive coordinator or bring someone else in there. None of this will happen. I'm just saying it's just interesting. We're always talking defense. What are they going to do defense? Nick Sorensen, which is the thing to talk about. We don't know, but I think it is solidifying, at least in their minds and the way they're thinking about this offseason. Maybe more of the strategic fixes have to happen on the offensive side, or kind of personnel fixes. What do you do with the offensive line? What do you do, with Deebo Samuel? Let's talk about that one. I mean, obviously the big drop, the agonized look, and it's brought up by people who watch on TV. We didn't really hear it, but the booing, I just think they're booing the whole situation. They're not necessarily saying boo Deebo Samuel, you're horrible. Although maybe there was some of that at Levi Stadium. It's getting a little weird. Obviously, he's had a bad season. I asked Shanahan yesterday, is he slowed down? Is basically just? I think he slowed down. And Shanahan, well, he had a great camp, and then he got dinged up, and he had the first couple good games. All these things are true. We know that Shanahan is maybe his favorite player on the team is Deebo Samuel. He likes that feistiness. He likes the physicality, but it has not translated to good plays this season. I almost think that all these things, it's almost like it's kind of headed towards Deebo coming back next season, because you could maybe bring him back at a lower salary, what they did to Juszczyk. He might be more amenable to it than we would have otherwise thought. And I'm not sure another team is going to want him, right? I mean, who's going to be bidding for Deebo Samuel next season? And with IU coming off an injury, and you're not sure what Ricky Pearsall is, and Jacob Cowing has been slow to get in there. Maybe Deebo is as important or close to as important as he's been, just because everything else is lacking. Do you see a path back for Deebo, even if their salary cap gets constricted, even if the guaranteed monies get constricted, just because he still fits personality-wise and stylistically?
Well, I see a path back because they've painted themselves into a corner here with the contract. I mean, there's not gigantic savings by cutting him.
No.
In some instances, they end up paying more. So yeah, I do. The issue with Deebo Samuel right now is that he's playing 50 snaps a game, and they're not getting anything out of those 50 snaps. It's hurting Purdy. It's hurting the offense. So I mean, if that's the takeaway from the 2024 season, I don't see how you can go into 2025 thinking that a year older Deebo, you just said you think he's slowing down. You think he's going to be faster next year? and an IU coming off a multi-ligament knee injury is going to be better. I mean, I do think Pearsall will be better. He'll have the benefit of an off season, which he didn't have really in full this last year. But I think that position is going to be the most interesting. The 49ers go status quo there. It's a big risk, a huge risk, especially in an offseason where you're paying Brock Purdy perhaps $60 million a year or signing him to a contract like that. So, I mean, I'm really curious as to what the 49ers are thinking there. Chris Foerster has come right out and said that, their draft philosophy is to bring in playmakers in the first round. There's a bigger difference between a playmaker in round 1 and round 3 than there is between a offensive lineman in round 1 and round 3. I wonder whether that's a position that they're going to try to upgrade, because frankly, the wide receivers have stunk this year. There's no two ways about it. Juwan Jennings is the only exception to that rule. And then we saw on Thursday, when the defense really kind of focuses in on Juwan Jennings, I think Purdy was 2 of 9 in targeting him. So
with a pick, with a pick,
with a pick. So he's not, beyond criticism either. So I think that's in this day and age, you got to have the wide receivers. You got to have wide receivers that scare defenses so that they're not lining up in press man coverage every snap. And right now, the 49ers don't have that wide receiving crew.
I just want to mention on Deebo, this is exactly what the negotiation was about a couple of years ago, that by making him a wide back, he's absorbing more hits and they're possibly shortening his prime. That was his argument. Literally. I mean, that was it. And the 49ers were also saying, like, yeah, because you're taking all these hits, we won't pay you extended money. And he would say, well, no, but I'm doing it, so you have to pay me now then. That was the issue there. They kind of met in the middle of that. He didn't get a monster guarantee because of that. He got good money, but not great money, and that they could get out of it after a couple of years. Like, this is it. He was absorbing a lot of hits in 2021. He absolutely was. He dragged them through it. His is not a body that is great to keep going at this. He's not the big bone guy. And this is kind of what both sides kind of foresaw in that. That's, again, what made that so difficult a negotiation. He's not Justin Jefferson, right? He's not that kind of guy where you can just roll him out there for 6 years in his prime. Like, this was not the way he was playing. Now, he's not absorbing a lot of those hits now because he's just not getting the ball that much. But this, I just want to go back to, that's what the issue was a few years ago. It wasn't like, oh my God, you're going to be great for 6 years. Like, neither side was thinking that.
Well, that raises a great point. The 49ers seem to foresee this perfectly. I mean, that 3-year deal suggested that they didn't think that Deebo Samuel by the year 2025 was going to be as good as the 2021 Deebo Samuel. Lo and behold, that has all worked out exactly as they foresaw, and yet they still went in and they reworked the contract. They had it perfect the first time. I don't know
Well,
what it was that
I think
prompted
Kyle
them.
Shanahan, had different thoughts on this. It's like, we need this guy, we want this guy, and they acquired Chris McCaffrey in the meantime. I don't exactly, I can't go through point by point, but I think the acquisition of McCaffrey was like, we've got this now, this window, this absolute window. Let's lower the number so we can do something else somewhere. It was a lot of layers of thinking, but I don't think Kyle Shanahan was ever like, this guy's a short termer. This guy, it was Parag Parate and Jed York. Like, that's the side that was exerting the pressure on Deebo Samuel. I don't know that Kyle Shanahan was ever thinking that way for sure. Like, I'm sure he didn't disagree with the general idea, but he wasn't going to go, let's squeeze this guy because I don't know how long he's going to last. I think that was much more, I think it was literally said to his agent, like, your prime isn't going to be very long. I think that was literally said, and that was what got Deebo pissed, and that would have got me pissed too, even if it's actually literally happening before our eyes. Let's really quick, we can talk about Purdy's contract forever and ever, but we're dancing around it, and then people will get mad if we don't address it. You said 60 million. We don't know what the number is going to be. I did a whole piece trying to narrow it down. I think the Jordan Love deal, about the same age. Purdy's younger than Jordan. I mean, he's younger than Jordan Love. You think of Love as a young quarterback. Purdy's younger than him. He's younger than almost everybody starting in the NFL who's any good except for James Daniels right now. A lot younger than Kirk Cousins and many others that have been thrown out there. Do you think that, like, you got to bet on the come with Purdy? Do you think there's some dissatisfaction with Purdy? Like, is this a moving target, is I guess what I'm asking you? Or is this kind of frozen in what his value is going to be when the 49ers have to give him this new deal?
I think Kirk Cousins is a great comparison here because, as we all know, Shanahan has been in love with Cousins forever, and Purdy is the new Cousins. And he's a better version of Cousins because he has the element of kind of escaping and continuing plays and all that stuff that he does well, gaining yards with his feet. So, I mean, I just think that, the 49ers have settled on this guy, and, they were going to pay Kirk Cousins top of the market contract back in 2018 when he became a free agent. I think they're going to do the same thing here. What we don't know is what the top of the market is right now, but my guess is that figure, that APY figure, starts with an S, and
Wow.
maybe
Yeah.
it's 60. But I don't know what their plan B is if they don't get it done. And they seem to be like, the Javon Hargrave contract we were reworking, what we just said about Deebo. This is all being done because they know they're going to have to pay this huge amount. And I don't know what the number is going to end up being. And I hope that they don't quibble with it and it takes all off season to land on a
Man,
number that everybody was circling back in January.
if it does, that's a problem.
That's a
That's going
problem.
to be a huge problem.
So, and I imagine, just personality wise, that Brock Purdy is the type of guy that would rather this get done sooner rather than later. And maybe he's the type of personality guy that says, I don't care if it's 59 or 61. I mean, that minutia there doesn't matter to me. Just get me into the top tier, and let's go after the off season. That would be wonderful for everybody. But so, I mean, I just don't know. I don't understand why there's all this. Yeah, I guess I do understand this, the media atmosphere that we're in now, but it just seems like a no-brainer to me. Everything is pointing to him getting whatever the market suggests the top quarterback gets at that moment.
Yeah, I would disagree slightly. I don't think it's going to be 60. That was Dak Prescott, Cowboys, weird situation, a longer list of not accomplishments, but longer, just he puts up year after year after year. Purdy's done it for a couple years. This has not been a very good year. Obviously, there's reasons for it. There's reasons to knock this down to 52, whatever. I've said Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, 52, 53. Now, this is not the tradition for quarterbacks, right? The next one always gets the top number. But that's been when they've had Trevor Lawrence and they've had Justin Herbert, they've had Joe Burrow. Those are different kinds of quarterbacks, I think, than where Purdy fits. Again, we're still doing this Mr. Irrelevant thing, but there's a reason why he was, just physically he lasted so long in the draft. I think 52, 53, you could puff up the average annual value in a lot of different weird ways, just so long as that first report across the ESPN ticker is at the number. That's what they want, that number to come up. Maybe it's not really that number, but whatever manipulations you can do, you can give 4-year or $160 million contract, whatever that number turns out to be, and just do it. And do it by February and be done with it. And he's happy and he's not he's a hero in the locker room because he didn't take every single dollar that he could have. It's just not, as we've said, it's not his personality to demand that. And in the 49ers, we know they've done one of these deals quickly, the Jimmy Garoppolo deal. Again, that was top of the market, but that was before the explosion at quarterback. And the explosion happened right after he signed his deal. So I don't expect the 49ers to be offering top of market. They don't have to. And the other part is Brock's making 1.1 next season. That deal exists. Yeah. So no matter what, you're going on top of that. Now they thought that would work with Ayuk. Remember, that was part of the negotiation. You're already down for 14 million. If we do nothing, you're making 14 million. So when we pay you on top of it, this is all kinds of added value. Ayuk did not listen and care about any of that. That was a huge problem with Ayuk. They will never go through this again. They will never, ever, especially not a quarterback. If there's a way out of the Purdy era, it's if they get to March and he's asking for 62 and they're offering 52, and then maybe they trade him. I don't know what they could get for him, but they will never live through this again. That will not happen. I don't expect it to happen. I expect this to happen pretty quickly. They could do it in January, Barrows. How about that? How about
January 6th?
Yeah, they could just boom. Here we go. Press conference on Wednesday. But it probably will take a little bit of time. I just see a fast one out there, and I don't know that he's the guy who has to reset the market for statistical reasons, for value reasons, for personality reasons, for locker room reasons. Just get him into the top 10, 8, whatever. Get him a really good guaranteed number, and then move into the offseason. This cannot go into the offseason. This cannot be something that they're dealing with in March 7th, whatever the league year starts, and they don't know, how much they're paying the quarterback. They cannot happen, and I don't think it will happen. Anything else you got for us, Barrows?
Yeah, I got a Tim Kawakami recommendation on HBO Max, and I saw Yacht Rock last night.
Excellent.
It was a very, very well done documentary with some really good interviews. Christopher Cross and Michael McDonald. And my takeaway from Yacht Rock was that these are all really nice guys, sweet guys. They're all also nerds. They're basically nerdy guys. And so when the MTV phenomenon happened, they became obsolete very quickly. And this is why there's sort of this comical element to them, because they were not part of that, Michael Jackson, Madonna,
Duran.
Yeah, just the big kind of powerful things that happened in the mid 80s with MTV, and these guys were left behind. So that it seems passé, but the music is really very good. And, my own personal taste, I think Steely Dan is a large cut above the rest of what they're calling yacht rock. And I thought it was great when Donald Fagen refused to be part of the jokey nature of the whole thing.
That was even better than an actual Donald Fagen interview.
Yes.
It was actually just hearing his voice saying, well, fuck off then.
He basically told him to fuck off.
It was so hilarious. I was like, even if they scripted that, it's perfect. They probably didn't. It was actually probably real, but that was so good.
But that alone shows that he's not yacht rock, because Christopher Cross and Michael McDonald were the nicest guys, very self-deprecating. And they sat in on these interviews and they went over the whole thing. And Fagan basically said, fuck it. I'm not going to let you make fun of me for 2 hours.
Yeah.
No way.
If I've seen McDonald on some other documentaries, I am a rock documentary guy. I love him. That's why I recommended it to Barrows. Figured you'd like it. But McDonald's just a good dude. He's just a good dude. Like he's just a sweet, big-hearted, vulnerable dude who has made some incredible music. I haven't loved this kind of music, but I'm interested in it. And now I'm like, I kind of want to hear some of this music again, just because it gets in your head. And kind of the soulfulness of the people kind of gets into the music when you see the interviews. No, I think it was just a great kind of like dumping you into that moment and looking back on it and saying, yeah, that was something that is worth examining, worth going back into. And yeah, it was really interesting, the breadth of it, like just other pieces of it, as you say, Steely Dan, whose music I like a lot more than Christopher Cross or some others, but just the relationship, the production qualities, and all the the session, the session musicians who were in both, but even Hall and Oates was thrown in there, or various other artists. I just like that conceptual way to look at this stuff. It's got to be done right, and you can't just wildly do it, but damn it, that was good. And like, I very rarely want to rewatch a documentary because once you see the documentary, you've seen the story, you don't want to go back. Like this one, I want to kind of go back and go live through the moments again because they're just so interesting, well crafted. It's kind of framed by that comedy, video about that created the yacht rock, like, just, hey, we're going to make fun of all these guys, but then it turned into kind of a love affair thing too. It's like, the way this evolved was just perfect for a documentary. They did a really nice job on it. It's that whole Bill Simmons music box series, and some of them are better than others. This one was fantastic, and I recommended it on the highest thumbs up to Barrows.
Yeah, that was a good recommendation.
I'm glad you liked it. I'll give you another one. I don't know if you're watching. It's very top of the line on Netflix, so you probably might have been Black Doves. I am watching that now. Keira Knightley, who just a fantastic person to watch. The co-star Sam, I don't know his last name, is Watchwell, whatever. Fantastic, really well acted, thoughtful action. I'm kind of midway through I guess it's the first season, whatever season they're on. It's really good. I'm involved mentally in it, and I'm involved, it plays out in a very relatable way. It doesn't feel chilly. Some of these things feel chilly, like you're a little distant from everything. Like, did you see The Hitman?
I did not enjoy The Hitman.
I did not.
I usually like David Fincher.
Some of this is just chilly. I just don't like chilly so much. Like, Fincher is chilly all the time. Sometimes I really like it. Sometimes I don't. This is not chilly. It's not overly warm, but you do feel the people. Like, there's a reality to it. So Black Doves. We'll see. Not as high a recommendation as Yacht Rock, but it is entertaining for me. Like, I want to see the next one. That's how I kind of rate all this.
Were you a Mind Hunter guy?
No, I heard about it, but I really wasn't. I have not really dropped into that one.
He does. I think the acting does a good job of warming that one up. Two very likable main characters there. So I highly recommend that one. I think you should give that one a second go.
All right, we'll try it. All right, if anyone has any extra recommendations for us, send
me. Please send
something.
them.
Yeah, we'll see what we can get. If you have a good one and we like it, we'll give it a thumbs up here. But we need more Yacht Rock, more episodes, more hours. Yeah. It was just damn good. I'd watch an outtakes of Yacht Rock documentary interviews. I absolutely would do that. Or like the songs they didn't get into, because I'm just now fascinated by the whole thing. All right, Barrows, that's it. Yacht Rock, end of season. Brock Purdy, we did it all. Dre Greenlaw. That's the show for today, everybody.